Now, one of Donald Trump's good campaign promises, and he's made a lot of different campaign promises that were bad, some of them were actually good. For example, to kill TPP, great, I agreed with that. Now, one of his good campaign promises was to allow Medicare to negotiate on prescription drug prices. He said that it would actually bring down the price of drugs for American consumers. It's great. Now, right now, we can't do that. Right now, there's actually a rule that bars Medicare from using its leverage as one of the biggest purchasers of drugs to negotiate for cheaper drugs. They can't just go and say, we're your biggest customer, let's negotiate, let's bring down the cost, because I'm not paying $100 for a bag of saline, okay, or whatever crazy stuff. Well, we can't do that, we're barred. Now, basically, that happened when George W. Bush put in Medicare Part D. See, before George W. Bush put in Medicare Part D, we couldn't actually negotiate, or Medicare didn't actually have a prescription drug program. So George W. Bush added this, and but in order to make Republicans happy, they said, oh, well, don't worry, let's put in a non-interference clause in a Medicare Part D. So we can actually get the votes from congressmen that are bankrolled by the pharmaceutical industry, right? So we're going to make the pharmaceutical companies happy, and they'll, their lobbyists will say, okay, you can let this go through because we're not going to get impacted. In fact, we're going to make money from this. This is going to be fantastic for us. So that's what you have going on now. Now, I think, in my personal opinion, and not just my personal opinion, but data actually shows that actually getting Medicare to negotiate drug prices would be a great idea. I mean, it's not like some of these medications are cheap to make, or aren't cheap to make, I should say. They're actually incredibly cheap to make. So they can still sell at a discount and still make a tremendous amount of profit. Now, this is, of course, dealing with generics. There are some drugs right now that are still under copyright protection. And by the way, or patent protection, I should say. So they have a patent. They're the only ones that can sell that, and they can sell at whatever price they like. And a lot of that goes to, yes, profit, advertising, but also to recoup some of the losses in research and development. I get that. Now, once that wears off, and we have incredibly generous patent protections here in America, where these drugs can sometimes go, a couple of decades without being able to be challenged, without people being able to make generics based on that. So they're going to make a lot of profit, and nobody can challenge them until that patent wears off. And once it wears off, you can start making generics, and that brings down the price for everybody. Now, we're talking about like generic drugs. Medicare can't even negotiate for those drugs at this point. So, I mean, let me use an example of a non-generic drug first, and then a generic drug. Now, you remember the Epi-Pen, right? I did stories about the Epi-Pen and how they jacked up the price. Now, Mylan is actually the manufacturer of the Epi-Pen, and you guys remember they got a lot of heat for charging $600 for 2 Epi-Pens. And that's insane. And look, that's considering that the dose of epinephrine costs about $1 to make. But they do have a patent, not on the epinephrine. Anybody can get that. But they actually have the delivery method, right? That's proprietary. So they own that patent right now. Now, the delivery system, however, that's what they use to try to justify that cost. We had to come up with that. Well, it's actually pretty cheap. It's estimated to cost about $30 to make an Epi-Pen injector. So when Mylan bought this from the other company, they originally was about $100 for 2 Epi-Pens. Now it's $600. So, I mean, look, and I'm not 100% on the $30 to make, but I think from what I'm getting, it costs about that much. It's not an enormous amount of money. And so the point is that there's no reason that it should cost $600 for 2 Epi-Pens. That's insanity. Now let's take Daraprim, which is a generic drug. Now, Daraprim, of course, was made famous by pharma bro Martin Shkreli. It's actually used to fight toxoplasmosis, right? And it's also used by some AIDS patients as well with compromised immune systems. Now, Daraprim was actually really cheap to make because it is a generic drug that's been around for a long time. Now, not a lot of people take it, right? But look, it is cheap to make. And before Martin Shkreli bought it, it went for about $13.50 a pill. Now, Shkreli bought it, marked it up 5,000%. And that's why he's still, one of the reasons why he's still the most hated person on the internet. So that's that, right? Now, of course, during the campaign, going back to Donald Trump, he made his promise to allow Medicare to negotiate for drug prices because of the outrage. Like, oh my God, that asshole Shkreli jacking up the price. They're getting away with murder. These pharmaceutical companies are getting away with murder. Well, Bernie Sanders agreed. And also later on, he co-sponsored a bill to try to open up the ability to buy cheaper drugs from Canada, anything to try to bring down these prices. Now, I want to show you, with all that context put into place, because context is important. Now I want to show you Donald Trump's promise. And this was actually at the beginning of January. Let's take a look at that.
The other thing we have to do is create new bidding procedures for the drug industry because they're getting away with murder. Pharma has a lot of lobbies, a lot of lobbyists, and a lot of power. And there's very little bidding on drugs. We're the largest buyer of drugs in the world, and yet we don't bid properly. And we're going to start bidding. We're going to save billions of dollars over a period of time. And we're going to do that with a lot of other industries.
Bidding, pharma, got a lot of lobbies, got a lot of lobbyists. Hey man, he's right. There's actually nothing wrong with that statement. And it's actually something that a lot of progressives looked at and go, oh, okay, if you're gonna do bidding and try to lower the price, it's great. We'll support you on that. There's a lot of things that we don't support Donald Trump in, but if he meant to do this, great. I'm with you. We're with you 100%. Well, it turns out he may no longer be with us. Now, again, talking about Donald Trump and talking about Bernie Sanders' bill, you remember that Bernie Sanders' co-sponsored bill was thwarted by Cory Booker. Cory Booker voted against allowing cheaper Canadian drugs from coming to the United States, and he got absolutely hammered from it. And it's because, of course, the lobbyists, Cory Booker, paid by a lobbyist from the pharmaceutical industry. Now, Donald Trump also just met with lobbyists from the pharmaceutical industry, and now look at the result. According to Vox, Vox in Donald Trump's own statement, Trump's new policy on trying to lower the cost of prescription drugs appears to be, instead of empowering Medicare to actually try to be able to negotiate prices, he's going to offer a mix of tax cuts and deregulation. Of course. It's funny. Donald Trump meets with some lobbyists, right? And now immediately starting to walk back his promise to allow Medicare to negotiate. It's almost as if the lobbyists seem to run the place. So there's literally been no change since the last administration. Lobbyists still run the place. What happened to draining the swamp? Well, I don't think he ever intended to. Now, anyway, on Trump's quote here, and again, this is from reporters that were in the room when Trump made the statement. He said, quote, "I'll oppose anything that makes it harder for smaller, younger companies to take the risk of bringing their product to a vibrantly competitive market. That includes price fixing by the biggest dog in the market, Medicare, which is what's happening. But we can increase competition in bidding wars big time. So what I want, we have to get lower prices, we have to get even better innovation, and I want you to move your companies back into the United States, and I want you to manufacture in the United States. We're going to be lowering taxes, we're going to be getting rid of regulations that are unnecessary." I don't know about you, but that kind of seems like a walk back. And the overall plan, tax cuts, deregulation. This guy is a standard Republican. I mean, look, he even said Medicare's top dog, and they're price fixing to make it higher. No, that's not what they're doing. They're not allowed to negotiate for price. They're not allowed to price fix. Nothing in that statement was actually correct. So from what I get from that is that it's pretty clear he has dropped his pledge to allow Medicare to negotiate. and instead more Republican bullshit. And of course, this goes along with the recent executive orders that he signed. For example, if you want to pass one regulation, you've got to get rid of two. Now that, of course, and I didn't get to cover that, but that policy right there is exceptionally juvenile. It's something that a child would come up with. Oh no, if you want one, you got to get rid of two. Well, which two do you get rid of? Sure, you don't want somebody polluting in the river, but then you pass a regulation to prevent that, but you got to get rid of two others. So instead of polluting the river with, I don't know, coal or the remains of coal ash or something, we've got to let this other company pollute somewhere else. Well, that's not good. So, like I said, incredibly simplistic, very childlike, but that's how Donald Trump is. Now, that said, are there unnecessary regulations? Absolutely, and I'm actually in favor of getting rid of those. But who decides what is unnecessary? And it really depends on who decides that. I mean, look, there are people out there that actually think, hey, clean air, clean water, regulations, unnecessary. That is burdensome regulation. I would like to get rid of that so that I can pollute and make an extra buck. It's not like that's my drinking water. Yeah, it's somebody else's drinking water, jackass. Doesn't matter to them. Now look, on this, there are reporters that are continuing to caution that, hey man, I don't really know if that's his position. Well, look, I don't know if it's his position. The guy flip-flops everywhere. He's incredibly hard to nail down. Look, to be honest, I think this is the donor's position. Because remember, Donald Trump listens to the last guy in the room. So he has a meeting with pharmaceutical lobbyists, and they're all saying like, no, tax cuts and deregulation, that's the ticket. That's where it's at. That's what you need to do. No, don't empower Medicare. No, we're going to lose money if we do that. Give us tax cuts, let deregulate the industry, and then things will be great. Trust me, Donald, it'll be great. Oh, okay. Boy, that sounds really good, guys. That sounds tremendous. That's exactly what we're going to do. And you wonder why he doesn't keep any of his pledges. Because he surrounded himself with donors and lobbyists. That's why he's turning back on a lot of his promises, except for the really terrible ones. The ones that hard-right Republicans wanted, or the things that Steve Bannon or Robert and Rebecca Mercer want. All the people who fund this guy, they're getting what they want. And any of the policy promises, with the exception of TPP, for example, are not going to get honored. Or at least very few of them. So, look, I want to be wrong, okay? I do want to be wrong. I actually do want him to empower Medicare. I want him to bring down prescription drug prices. I want what's best for the American people. I want people to be able to get access to cheaper drugs. And I want to give him credit for doing this. And if he actually does go back and say, you know what, never mind, lobbyists. I am actually going to do what's really right. Not just tax cuts and deregulation, but I'm actually going to give Medicare the ability to negotiate for drug prices because that's the right position. That's the correct position. Then I will give him credit. I will do it 100%, and I will be happy about it. But right now, after seeing this, I don't have any faith that he's going to do anything remotely close to helping the American people. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent, non-corporate media, go to our Patreon page and become a patron. Patreon.com/TYTNation.